The council chamber of the Galactic Concordat had never fallen so silent. Ambassador Thelrix's crystalline exoskeleton refracted the chamber's ambient light as he gestured with one of his 6 appendages toward the viewing screen. Upon it, footage played of Dr. Leon Mercer walking calmly through what should have been certain death. "Impossible," whispered Council Member Vornasa, her gill slits flaring in distress. "The Krathnor Young are apex predators. They've killed trained soldiers in protective suits. Yet this human walks among them in nothing but fabric clothing." Dr. Mercer had arrived on Station Kepler 7 3 months prior, a xenopsychologist specializing in what humans called behavioral imprinting. The Council had dismissed her credentials initially. What could a species barely 2 centuries into space travel teach civilizations that had navigated the stars for millennia? Then the Krathnor delegation arrived with their young. The Krathnor were legends whispered in the dark corners of space stations. 8 feet tall, covered in obsidian scales with rows of serrated teeth and claws that could pierce durasteel, they were the galaxy's most feared warriors, and their young were, if anything, more dangerous than the adults. Predatory instinct without the tempering of reason. 3 security officers had already been hospitalized just from the cubs' playful swipes. The Council had been prepared to reject the Krathnor's petition for membership. How could they allow a species into the Concordat when even their children posed an existential threat to member stations? That was before Dr. Mercer requested an audience with the cubs. "It's madness," Ambassador Thelrix had protested. "We cannot allow a human to sacrifice herself for political theater." But Dr. Mercer had smiled that peculiar human smile and replied, "Trust me, I've raised wolves." The Council hadn't understood the reference. Now, watching the footage, they understood even less. Dr. Mercer sat cross-legged in the containment chamber, 3 Krathnor cubs circling her like sharks scenting blood. The eldest, Rexar, had his dorsal spines fully extended, a threat display that preceded every documented Krathnor attack. But Dr. Mercer didn't run. She didn't even flinch. Instead, she did something that made every council member lean forward in confusion. She turned her back on the cubs and began arranging colored blocks on the floor, humming softly to herself. "What is she doing?" Vornasa breathed. For 10 minutes, Dr. Mercer ignored the predators completely. Rexar approached, jaws parting to reveal rows of crystalline teeth. His hot breath condensed on her shoulder. Still, she built her tower of blocks, seemingly oblivious. Then, without looking, Dr. Mercer spoke. "Rexar, if you're going to knock it down, at least help me build it first." The chamber's translator struggled with the casual tone, the implicit challenge wrapped in invitation. Rexar's spine slowly retracted. He tilted his massive head, studying this strange, soft creature that refused to play the role of prey. Slowly, deliberately, Rexar picked up a block with his deadly claws and placed it on the tower. The Council erupted in shocked chittering, clicking, and vocalizations of disbelief. Over the following weeks, Dr. Mercer continued her sessions. She taught the cubs games. She set boundaries with calm firmness, never with fear. When one cub snapped too close to her hand, she didn't recoil in terror. She simply said no and turned away, denying them her attention until they settled. The Krathnor adults watched from behind observation glass, their expressions unreadable. Their lead diplomat, War Chief Kralvex, had refused all commentary. Until today. Today, the Council was set to vote on the Krathnor petition. The chamber was packed with representatives from 47 species. War Chief Kralvex stood at the petitioner's podium, his massive frame somehow diminished by the political theater surrounding him. "The Council recognizes the inherent danger posed by Krathnor juveniles," Ambassador Thelrix began, his voice carrying across the chamber. "While we acknowledge the progress made by Dr. Mercer, we cannot base policy on a single human's unexplainable success. The safety of—" The chamber doors burst open. Dr. Mercer entered, flanked by 3 Krathnor cubs. Rexar walked at her right, his movements measured and calm. Security personnel reached for their weapons, but Dr. Mercer raised a hand. "Please," she said quietly. "Don't." The cubs' eyes locked onto the council members. 47 species representing billions of beings faced down 3 juvenile predators. The air thrummed with potential violence. Then Rexar moved. In one fluid motion, he positioned himself beside Dr. Mercer and sat, his tail curling around his feet. The other 2 cubs followed his lead, sitting in perfect formation. Silence crashed over the chamber like a physical force. "You don't understand why," Dr. Mercer said, her voice carrying in the stillness. "You've watched the footage, analyzed the data, and you still don't understand." She placed her hand on Rexar's scaled head. The cub leaned into the touch. "It's because I never treated them like monsters. I treated them like children. Dangerous children, yes, but children nonetheless. I set boundaries. I provided structure. I gave them something your species has forgotten in all your technological advancement." "And what is that?" Ambassador Thelrix asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Patience, consistency, and the understanding that fear isn't respect." Dr. Mercer looked directly at War Chief Kralvex. "Your people have been rejected from every alliance, every coalition, every confederation, not because you're warriors, because everyone is too afraid of your children to see that they're just that, children who need guidance." War Chief Kralvex's throat rumbled, a sound that translator implants rendered as something between laughter and grief. "For 3 generations we have been isolated. Our young ones bear the burden of our reputation. They learn early that the galaxy sees them as weapons, so they become what is expected. But they don't have to," Dr. Mercer continued. "Humans learned this lesson millennia ago. We domesticated wolves, apex predators, not by breaking them, but by earning their trust. We raised livestock, trained guard dogs, and yes, sometimes we failed. But we never stopped trying." Rexar rumbled softly, nuzzling against Dr. Mercer's side. The gesture was so familiar, so innocently childlike, that several council members visibly startled. "The question before this council isn't whether the Krathnor are dangerous," Dr. Mercer said. "It's whether you're brave enough to teach them they can be something more." "Ambassador," Thelrix stared at the scene before him, a human barely reaching the shoulder height of the predator cubs that sat obediently beside her, all of them waiting for the galaxy to decide their future. "How did you know it would work?" he asked finally. Dr. Mercer smiled. "Because every predator understands one thing, strength. You showed them your fear, so they responded with aggression. I showed them calm confidence. They responded with curiosity. Then I showed them structure, boundaries, and patience. They responded with trust." She stood, and the cubs rose with her, moving in sync like a pack. "Humans aren't stronger than the Krathnor. We're not smarter than most species here, but we've had 10,000 years of learning to live with predators, including ourselves. That's our strength. Not that we don't fear, but that we don't let fear dictate our actions." The council vote was unanimous. As Dr. Mercer led the cubs from the chamber, Rexar paused at the door. He looked back at the assembled representatives of galactic civilization, his predatory eyes reflecting the chamber's light. Then, mimicking something he'd learned from the human, he dipped his massive head in a gesture that every species present recognized. Respect. The door closed behind them, and Ambassador Thelrix sagged in his seat. "Perhaps," he murmured to no one in particular, "we've underestimated these humans." Vornasa clicked her mandibles in agreement. "They walk with predators and teach them to sit. What else might they be capable of?" In the corridor outside, Dr. Leon Mercer scratched behind Rexar's dorsal spines, right where he liked it, and the most feared predator in the galaxy rumbled with contentment. "Good boy," she whispered. "Very good boy." And for the first time in generations, the Krathnor cubs weren't weapons. They were just children,